anyone else feel like an egghead when you wear your hair in a pony, or is it just me? Because I feel like an egg, and I feel like I look like an egg. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katie, and in today's video I will be talking about all of my recent reads. So if you're new to my channel, I technically only do this every 2 months, or when I have enough books to talk about, because I'm kind of a slow reader. But it's about the quality, not the quantity. However, the last time that I did this was at the beginning of March, so I have all of March and all of April to talk about, because I'm filming this the last week of April, and I will probably read another book before April ends. It doesn't matter, I'm just going to include that next time. If you're new to my channel and haven't seen how I do my reading wrap-ups, what happens is I will talk about the books that I read first, so it'll be like back at the beginning of March, and work my way up to the last book that I read. I will tell you a little bit about the book, my rating, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and I will always have links down below for you guys, because we all know, if you're not new, my summaries are not always the best. So I always have the books linked down below for you guys so you can look at them up yourselves, because we all know we don't really come for the summaries, but we come because I'm entertaining.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Or at least I hope. So let's get into the first book. Okay, so the first book, it's technically the second book, but I already talked about the first book I read in March, which was Well Met, so I'm not going to go over that one again. I will link the video where I talked about it up here and down below for you guys. But the book I'm going to start with is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This is the second Riley Sager that I read, and I enjoyed this one so much more than the first one I read. The first book I read was Lock Every Door, and I think I gave it like 3 or 4 stars. Because I liked the writing, but I didn't like the twist. It left me underwhelmed. But this book, I gave it 5 stars. I loved this book. This is what you consider like it's like a thriller / horror / mystery, if you will. Like all of them combined, because there were parts in this where I was like scared. But I'll talk about them. So it's kind of all those mixed in. So this book is about our main character named Maggie, who when she was younger, about like 5, 6, 7, something like that, her parents and her moved into a house that was going to be flipped. And stuff started happening in the house, so they only lasted like 25 days, and then they moved out, and her father decided to write a book about their experience. And if this sounds familiar, it kind of should, because this gave me Haunting of Hill House vibes. If you've watched Haunting of Hill House, I think you'll like this book. Now, if you're a chicken like me and do not watch scary stuff, do not watch horror, do not like paranormal stuff, don't read this at night, because I did. I did, and I shouldn't have, but I did. But like I said, I really enjoyed this book. It was a fun time. It was a good time. I'm going to continue with Riley Sager because I'm like, you know, 1 for 1. One I hated. Well, I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it. And this one I did love. So, but I unhauled it. But I had to get it out of my unhaul bin. But I did enjoy this one. So I'm glad that I did read it. The next book that I read, okay, listen. After Home Before Dark, I kind of went on a romance spree. Okay? And I read a whole bunch of romances. I read some rom-coms. I read some mafia. I read some dark. I read some like gut-wrenching. It was a good time. Like I highly enjoyed myself. So the next good many books I talk about are going to be romances. So just keep that in mind. So the next one I'm going to talk about is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I ended up giving this one 4.25 stars. It wasn't like my favorite Christina Lauren that I've read, but it was still up there and I highly enjoyed it. This one is a rom-com and it follows the fake dating trope. We have a single mom named Jess who is kind of like down on her luck. She needs some money. and she's also, like I said, single, and her best friend decide to put their DNA into this new dating app, which will partner you up with like a dating prospect based on your DNA match. So she ends up doing it. She ends up getting like a 98 or 99% match with the creator of the app himself, Dr. River Pena, and they take her to the building like where the app is, and they're like, you know what, we need this app like launch to go well. We will pay you to fake date, so like you'll get publicity and things like that. And she's like, you know what, I'm not above doing that. So she does, but we all know what happens because it's a romance. It's a romance, and it's fine. It's fine that I know how this ends. It's perfectly fine. Steam level on this is probably like a 2 to 3. Christina Lauren doesn't really do like steamy, like explicit scenes, graphic scenes, but they are in there, so just kind of be forewarned going in if you're like more of like a closed door person. It is talked about, but it's not like explicit. But if you do want explicit, I got you. I got you too. I then decided, you know what? I was watching the Book Refuge channel, Jen, and she always talks about Brutal Birth Rate series, and she's had Sophie Lark on her channel before on like hangouts and talking, and basically I was like, if I don't get my hands on the Brutal Birth Rate series, I'm going to be upset. So I started my journey, and I am so glad I did. The first book in this series is Brutal Prince, and all of these are mafia, so just know that. There are elements of mafia in each book. So the first one is an enemies to lovers marriage of convenience trope that I absolutely love. So we're following two main families in this. We are following the Irish mafia and the Italian mafia. They don't like each other. They don't get along because they're always fighting to be like top tier. So something in the beginning of the book happens between the two families, and the two heads of the households, the two fathers, get together and like, we have to do something because we're going to tear each other apart and we're probably stronger together. So they come back from the meeting and they're like, guess what? We have a solution. You, sir, named Cal from the Irish mafia, is going to marry the daughter of the Italian mafia's head, and her name is Ada. So they are forced to get married, and they do not like each other. They are pulling pranks on each other because they hate each other throughout the book. I was laughing because this book is so funny. It's not like funny like haha, like it's a funny, but it's funny. If it makes sense. It probably doesn't, but it does to me. Now, one thing you should know about these books is that Sophie Lark, when she writes them, her heroines are always like fiery, feisty, independent women. And I love that about those books. Like, I am so excited to read the rest of these books because I absolutely love them. So I read this one first, and this one is also like a touch her and die. Like, I love Cal and Ada so much. So much. And then after I finished that one, oh, if I didn't say it, I gave it 4.25 stars. No, I gave it 4.5. I don't know why I didn't give it 5. I don't know why, but I did give it 4.5. And then I went into Stolen Heir. Now, something else you should know about these books is that it follows the Irish and the Italian mafia the whole way through. So Cal has 2 younger sisters, and Ada has 3 brothers. So each book follows one of them. This one is following Cal's youngest sister, Nessa, and this is a captive trope. It is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. So like if you couldn't tell, I do love myself some Beauty and the Beast, but I did give this one 4.5 stars because I didn't love it as much as Brutal Prince. And I don't know why. There was just, okay, let me explain. Something happens in this book that causes the main hero in this book, named Miko, he wants revenge. So he decides he's going to kidnap Nessa. So he does. Beauty and the Beast. Thank you very much. And during that captivity, they just kind of spark a romance, and it's wonderful. Like, the atmosphere of this book, it's so gothic, and it's just so Beauty and the Beast. Like, the side characters reminded me of, like, Cogsworth, Lumiere, all those types of things. And if you love ballet, there's ballet talk in this too, so just know. Like, honestly, this is a lot of people's favorites. Like, a lot of people don't like this one. And if you don't, you can totally stop this one and go to this one. You can read them as standalones. That's totally fine, because she does recap everything that happened in this book, kind of in this one. But I want the full experience, so I'm reading them all in order. Steam is off the charts with these, by the way. Sophie Lark, duh. The next few books I read on my Kindle. The first one was The Confidence of Wildflowers by Michaela Spencer. I gave this 5 stars, and I love this book. Like, I loved this book, and spoiler, I loved the second book. I will talk about that in a second. But the first book is, well, both books, they're age gap slow burns. I left this, okay. We know! So we're following Salem, who is 18, and she just graduated high school, so she's in that in-between stage of, like, enjoying her summer, but also, like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And she lives with her mother, and a stranger, of course he's a stranger moves in next door. And he is a 30-year-old single father named Thayer. And at first, he's just kind of like a grump to her. And she's like, why is he being this way? Like, I didn't do anything, so I'm just going to be nice. I'm just going to be nice to him. Well, he ends up needing a nanny for the summer to watch his son. And Salem takes the job. It's beautiful. This book is beautiful. And if you do not read it, shame on you. I love this book. But, like, it's slow burn. Nothing happens until, like, 50% of the way in. Like, steamy-wise, like a 3. Nothing is, like, explicitly explained. But, yeah, nothing is explained. Nothing's graphic or anything like that. It's, like, maybe a page of description. Nothing too bad that you couldn't handle. Trigger warnings. I am going to start putting my trigger warnings down in the description, because some people feel that they are like spoilers. So if you don't want to know the trigger warnings, I'm not going to say them here, but the book and, like, the trigger warnings will be down below in the description for you guys. But there are trigger warnings in this book, so just kind of be aware of that. Oh, and I read it in a day. That's how much, like, I needed to know. Like, I loved this book. I read it in a day. And then the second book, however, was not out yet. It wasn't coming out for like 5 days, so I needed something in between those 2 dates. So I ended up reading Corrupt by Penelope Douglas, which is the first in the Devil's Night series. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This is like a dark, this is dark. This is a dark romance. But, like, I was here for it. Like, I love Penelope Douglas's writing. When I read Birthday Girl, I think I read it last year, absolutely loved it. And I have been, like, holding off reading any more from her, because I'm like, what if it was like a one and done deal? Like, what if I won't like any of her other ones? But I decided to do the Corrupt, and I went in and I was like, okay, I see you. I'm enjoying this. We got this. It's good. So in Corrupt, we are following the boyfriend's older brother trope. But really, he's, like, not her boyfriend right now. Just catch my drift. We have dual timelines of Erica, or Rika, because they call her Rika, when she is a senior in high school, or junior in high school. I'm thinking she's a senior in high school. And, like, 4 years later. On Devil's Night in the past, her boyfriend's older brother, Michael, and his 3 friends always went out and, like, pranked the town. They just did silly stuff, okay? Never got caught for it. Something happens that night, and 3 of them get sent to jail, and Michael is kept out. He doesn't get sent to jail. They think that Rika has something to do with it. So when they all get out, they plan this elaborate, like, revenge on her. And that is what the book is about. It is kind of about them trying to get the revenge, but Michael is just a little bit you know, he's tempted. Like, he's always kind of liked her, and she's always liked him. So, like, as much as he's like, daggone it, I gotta be strong for my friends, it's like, also, just like, no. Like, give in to your temptations. It's fine. It's fine. Corrupt. Like, the way that this title was, like, interwoven into the book, I loved it. So I'm definitely going to continue with the series. I just haven't gotten it yet. After Corrupt, I was then able to read the Resurrection of Wildflowers, and this book, another 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. This book takes place 6 years after the first book ends. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the first book ends in a cliffhanger, just so you know. Like, if you enjoy the first book, make sure you have the second one, because it's a cliffhanger. I'm just saying.
We are going to pretend we didn't hear that.
Was that a spoiler? Probably. Oh, well, I really don't care. But, so, the second book starts 6 years later. I can't really say anything without spoiling it, but just know it's like another... Okay, I read comments and I read reviews where people were like, I did not like the second book because it wasn't what I expected it to be. And you know what? It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but it was exactly what I needed it to be. The character growth, the character development in this book was by far some of the best I've seen. I loved this book. It has a happy ever after, but it was so good. And I don't want to say anything, so I'm not going to spoil anything. But again, it does have triggers, so look down below. But like, if you take anything from this video, just read those 2 books. They were so good. The next book that I read was Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. And I have this book. I just don't feel like getting it. It's over there. It's over there on the shelf. Should I get it? You know what? I'm not going to. We're just going to deal. I ended up giving this one a 4 stars. This is the first in her Wicked Villains series, where she took our beloved Disney characters and gave the villains like a happily ever after type ordeal. And this one, we're following Jafar and Jasmine. And Jasmine has been sold at the beginning of the book by her father to Aladdin, and Aladdin is not a good guy in this book. So Jafar's like, you know what, I own you now, because also your father's like dead, so until you're married, I own you. And listen, when I tell you this book is nothing but like pure smut, you're reading this for the smut. You're not reading it for the plot. Don't lie to yourself. Just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it, girl. Don't.
Because you're not reading it for the plot. I wasn't reading for the plot. What plot? There's no plot. There's no plot. Okay? There's not. But it's a good time. And Katie Robert writes some smut that's just, it's up there. It is up there. So, you know, if you're looking for a plot, don't go there. Because like in the first chapter, it's there. It's wham bam, thank you, ma'am. This book, in it, he takes her to like and it's called the underground or underworld or something. I think it's probably the underworld, because it's like owned by Hades, but it's like like a sex club. And so like they engage in activities that others are watching. So if you're not comfortable with that, just know going in.
Find me a church. I've done everything everybody else wants to do. Find me a church.
There's also some daddy's baby girl kink, so know that that's in there too. But honestly, it was a fun time. It was a time. Am I going to continue? Yeah. What does that say about me? I don't know, but I'm going to continue. And the last book that I read was Confessions on the 745 by Lisa Unger. I gave it 3 stars. I don't care. I'm sorry. This book was, I don't know. I was expecting it to be so much more, and it just fell flat. Okay, let me tell you. This book is a thriller, and it's about a woman named Selena who finds out that her husband has been sleeping with their nanny. And she's on the way home from work after finding out, and she meets this stranger on the 745 train, and she tells her, she's like, yeah, I think, I just found out my husband is, sleeping with our nanny, and the stranger's like, well, I've been sleeping with my boss. I'm going to tell you something since you told me something. And so she's like, wouldn't it be cool if all our problems just like kind of disappeared, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. And Selena's like, yeah, whatever. Doesn't really take it, you know, whatever it is. She goes off to train. A few days later, or it's like a day later, it might be a day later, the nanny goes missing, doesn't show up for work. So who was the girl on the train? What happened? How is it connected? We don't know. And by page 200, I didn't care. That's that's honesty. There is like 7-8 point of views in this book. And yes, by the end, they all come together and it's all in a neat bow at the end. But it was so long. Like, this book was 100 pages longer than it needed to be. It really was. You can tell with books that I like because I'll keep talking about them. And this one was just not it. It was not it, sis. It just wasn't it.
Give me my money back, girl.
But I hope you guys enjoyed my wrap up. Let me know down in the comments what books you have been reading or what was your favorite read of the past month. I would love to know. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. I would love for you to join the family. My social media is linked down below, my Goodreads and my Instagram if you want to follow me on there. But I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. But let's just get into, no, I forgot to say. After what? I don't know. Okay. After The Haunting of Hill House. My God, that's not what I read. This one is, of course, a rom-com because that's really all they read. It's really all they read. Well, combine. What's the word I'm looking for? Not combine. So in the, in what, Katie? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?